It seems like every year the type and frequency of emails I receive asking for technical help kind of changes. And recently there's a lot more questions about these automatic climate controls. So we're looking at what I would consider advanced electronics, which plague many people with these 35-year-old cars. These are all cars of the early 1980s here, and they have climate control that's supposed to be automatic and it's not automatic. If you're going to own one of these old Mercedes like this and you're going to drive it and have some fun driving it, it's kind of nice to have the climate control working. We're looking at my 1984 300D, which also has some sporadic and intermittent heater problems. You know, the heat just is not consistent. People get online and they read about this unit right here, the monovalve, and they say, okay, it's probably the monovalve. And, you know, that might be true, but it's not the only issue. This is definitely something you want to consider troubleshooting and dealing with if you're chasing that heater problem like so many of us are in these old Mercedes-Benz. You can still get the monovalve off even though these two screws appear to be hidden in behind. And here's what you do. You grab a hold of that rubber seal and pull it forward. Pull it right off the lip. Now you can get the screwdriver on those back two screws to get that monovalve freed from the housing. Okay, let's take a look at the monovalve in this 85 wagon. Look at this. Totally torn monovalve diaphragm. How many times have I seen that over the years? Okay, we got to fix this one, but you know, Bosch monovalves are no longer available. There's some aftermarket, but so far I haven't been real pleased with the aftermarket solutions. The areas to inspect on the valve itself are the rubber seat right here. Make sure it's still pliable. Look at the screen, make sure the screen's not torn and that it's not all plugged up. And then pull up on it like that. And check this diaphragm. This is the most common problem with these monovalves. Look at that. This one is probably a replacement because it's not torn. Problem is you can't get Bosch originals anymore and the aftermarket ones don't work right. Most of them look like this when you pull them out. Maybe they're all rusty and corroded from poor coolant maintenance, or like this one, totally torn away. And when these monovalve diaphragms are torn like this, you are not going to get the proper hot water flow through your system. Let's take a look at the monovalve in the white wagon. Ah, look at that. No tears. And I can tell by looking at this, the softness of the rubber, that this is probably a recent replacement. For the past 3 weeks, I'm working on these systems. I'm trying to come up with solutions. I've got a couple of new kits and new videos coming out that will help you troubleshoot these systems. But I'm particularly happy here with Cherry, my 380 SL today. I've been out driving it for the last hour. It's a beautiful fall day here in the Pacific Northwest. And guess what? I have the TAC working, the cruise control working. I have the climate control working superbly. Now, many of you will say, well, I don't care. I don't need cruise control. I don't need a TAC. I can listen. But nobody's going to argue that you wouldn't like to have your climate control working properly. In other words, if you set it at 70 degrees, it stays there. Or if you put it on hot, it gets hot and not cold, and vice versa. So what's happened here is I've installed the new Klima monovalve system in this 380 SL. I've also installed it in all three of these W123s, and you cannot believe the difference. You know, I went out on the road, I did some tests, I used my stopwatch, and I can set this on full cold, driving at 40 miles an hour, and roll it up to full hot, and it takes about 30 seconds. Can you believe that? If you've been around these old climate control systems, that's pretty quick to go from full cold to full hot on this cool fall day in 30 seconds. Now, rolling it from full hot to full cold takes about a minute, but still, that's amazing. So that's one of the unique things about this new monovalve assembly from Klima is it does respond very quickly. Now, of course, you have to have switch panels that work. You have to have logic boxes, temperature logic boxes that aren't failing if this system's going to work. So I've been going through these cars, you know, pulling off climate control panels, pulling off shift wood, changing light bulbs. I think I have about 12 videos coming out because all these things like, okay, how do you glue the wood back onto that panel over the climate control switch panel? It's always loose. What about the shift wood in the back? That pin's always broken. So I've come up with a new kit to fix that. So I'm having a great time. You can see that having these 4 cars and working on these systems is really challenging because you get into some really sophisticated stuff, particularly with the cruise control, the climate control. But first I want to show you the Klima monovalve in this 380SL. I want to show you a quick comparison. Here is the original factory Bosch monovalve assembly. And now enter the new Klima assembly. Look at the difference. It's much more robust, much more heavy duty. Take a look at the new Klima monovalve assembly that I installed. You know, this is just a great new product. It's just a plug-in assembly complete. And it's real quick because you just have to unhook the hose, unplug it, bolt a new one in, and you're ready to go. Also, you want to note this here. You're wondering why there's a fuse holder that's plugged in this area. Well, that's my new protection fuse for the climate control panel, and I'll be discussing that more in a future video, or you can check the links below. I just removed the monovalve assembly out of my 84 300D in preparation for installing the new Klima unit. Now, what I find very interesting here is that I checked this about a month ago in this car when I was troubleshooting the climate control system. I pulled the monovalve out, and you know, the valve itself wasn't torn. But look, 30 days later, this valve is torn. And I noticed that it wasn't quite holding the heat very well. So this is why I don't like these old systems. One day the diaphragm might be good, and then the next week it rips and tears, and then the system goes south on you. Well, when you install the Klima unit, you don't have to worry about that. It's completely re-engineered valving system and very heavy duty. So I'm excited. I can say bye-bye to Bosch monovalves now, and this is going to be my unit of choice. Now, if you're watching this video, this is the end of November 2021, there's going to be ongoing work in these areas over the next 2 months. And I will put links in the Show More description below this video. Just click on Show More, and I'll put updated links to things I've come up with, solutions kits, instruction manuals, and so on, that may help you fix these systems in your 107, 126, and W123 Mercedes-Benz.